And we started recording. And real quick before I forget, welcome back everybody to Stone Students of Horror podcast. I'm the host Adrian. This is my co-host Zach. And today we are revisiting Nightmare on Elm Street. We talked about it. I believe it was with you last time I talked about it too, about 5 years ago. Um, and I remember at the time thinking it was like the greatest movie ever. But then I kind of started getting away from feeling that way. Kind of like the older I got and the more I watched it, I found myself just wanting to hurry up and get to three. But forget what movie we were talking about the last time A Nightmare on Elm Street came up, and I kind of put it down a little bit, and then I was just like, man, that was kind of a strong statement. Do I really feel that way? So I went back and rewatched it a few times since then, and I feel like overall, it's not a bad movie. It's a very important staple for sure. Completely necessary film. Probably something very different at its time. But I do find myself bored towards like the end of the second, leading into the third act, kind of. Um, I think what does it for me is most of the characters in this one they get killed off pretty quickly, and then we're left with Nancy. And I get what they were going for, but I guess it's just the way some of the stuff is written. Um,
I was gonna say I
I
remember.
guess like plot armor. I guess like there's lots of stupid plot armor because of the way dialogue is written and shit. And then uh, I just didn't really care for a lot of the when we're left alone with just Nancy for a big chunk of the movie. I didn't really care for that. I think it's her line delivery that kind of takes me out of a big portion of the movie. But that's just like an overall thought on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember being surprised that it wasn't your top choice when we were doing the Halloween movie list. Because I remember
Yeah, because
this was like you were big on this when I was back in Kerrville. Um, I think part of like what you're saying is that I get that effect from 80s movies sometimes. Like there's
hmm
something like so I don't know, just kind of off in like mannerisms and delivery. I feel like from a lot of 80s movies.
yeah, I
Is kind
feel like
of
maybe it's
the vibe of that decade. I don't know.
yeah. I feel
Vibe.
like there was a lot of figuring out going on in the '80s too, possibly. A
Yeah.
lot of figuring things out, a lot of rush to low budgeted scripts with not lots of time. Um, so I feel like some of the plot armor like had to be there to kind of hurry things along and not really think about if it all makes sense or not. Because if everything made sense, horror movies would all be like 10 minutes long. Like if there was just no plot armor, like people just wouldn't do the fucking stupid thing that invokes whatever or conjures whatever or causes everyone to believe in what like just the dumb obvious thing that we're all like, why would you do that? Without
Yeah.
plot armor, it never happened, so we never would go anywhere. But yeah, I just didn't. I think that's what it is because I do remember thinking like this was like one of the greatest movies in the world. Um, Dream Warriors. I rewatched it today, and I'll just go ahead and say I still feel very strongly about Dream Warriors. I didn't have a whole lot to complain about with that one, but um, do you have any more to say on just like your general thoughts on the movie overall, or and then before we jump into like the play-by-play?
Yeah, I feel like I was thinking about it. This is like up there like what Star Wars is for like sci-fi movies. I feel like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th are, you know, the same equivalent for or like slasher horror movies. Where it's like if you
Okay.
or if you're a fan of this type of movie and you haven't seen this, it's like, how'd you miss that? But
Yeah,
I think it's
or also if you
interesting
haven't, if you're not,
concepts.
yeah, like if you're not a fan of horror, then like you've at least heard of these.
Mhm.
So like everyone at least knows about Freddy and Jason, even if they're not like horror nerds. So yeah, I could see that being like the equivalent for sure. Um, let's let me see. I got this pulled up here. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the play-by-play. So pretty much the scene opens up with we see Freddy creating the claws is the intro that they chose, and then we go into Tina having like her first nightmare, um, with like the creepy like black background in the hallway, and then like the weird sheep jump scare thing going on, um, and you'll see this a lot in this movie. Uh, they end up in a boiler room just being chased around. Essentially, is where
Yeah.
her dream leads her to. Uh, so she does go ahead and take a slash at her, causing her to wake up screaming, and her mom breaks in the room asking what's going on, which she just kind of plays it off as if nothing happens. But she's got these like there's like three slashes going across her dress. Like she's obviously has been cut. Like her dress has been cut at least. And her mom is drunk and she said you gotta cut your fingernails or stop dreaming like that because she clearly just like made like knife cuts into her own dress with just her fingernails. Um, so her mom also being drunk, and it kind of hints around at why Tina is dating uh her boyfriend Rod, who's kind of a piece of shit too, because as her mom's trying to check on her from having a nightmare, her boyfriend or just like guest for that night or whatever the case may be interrupts asking when she's coming back to the set. It's just right in front of her daughter too, just no regard. Um, and she just kind of tells her to like chill out on having nightmares and goes back down to entertain her guest. Then we cut to the next scene is Tina and Nancy, Glenn, and Rod. They're all arriving to school. And this is another one of those things we're talking about, just weird dialogue in the 80s. Uh,
Yeah.
Tina's telling everybody about her nightmare that she had about being chased by Freddy. And uh, while she's doing so, Rod appears out of nowhere, and I forget the exact start of the line or the I forget the very first thing he says, but he something along the lines of, "Hey Tina, I woke up with the heart on this morning and it had your name written all on it." Then she makes a small dig joke and says, there's not enough room on your joint for four letters." To which he says, "Up yours with the twirling lawn," which I've never seen this motion and flipping someone off. Like I've seen this, I've seen like this, but like the weird little like kung fu grip to it, I don't know. That was strange. He says, "Up yours with the twirling lawnmower," and like disappears. Um, just it's a very weird conversation. Like I just didn't. It was just it was strange. I guess it gets brought up in a later scene, so I guess that was supposed to be a fight that they were having. That's like the big fight everyone is talking about later on in the movie. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie from 1984, uh, Tina dies very soon, and Rod is suspected of doing so because the witnesses keep saying they saw them fighting earlier in the day. They
Hmm.
said like three awkward ass sentences to each other and split path. I didn't put together that that was a fight. I just always thought it was fucking weird. Um, so with that being said, they all split up, and uh, we don't see him in class or anything. We just see it kind of cut to the next night where they're they're at Tina's house because she's terrified of her nightmare that she had, as she was telling them all about at school. So they all kind of come over. Well, Rod comes over later. Tina, Nancy, and Glenn are just kind of hanging out. There's like a prank call they do with Glenn's mom, just regular teenager shit. And then there's like scratching on glass that they hear. They get Glenn to go investigate it, and then funny idea of a prank. Rod comes out and just tackles him to the ground and uh, walks up to Tina and immediately asks if her mom is home. So he had no idea that everyone was even there either because no one told him. So he obviously just showed up there for one thing. It gets kind of weird between him and Glenn. He pulls a knife on Glenn, and then Nancy like takes the knife from him, and she has like a weird line delivery in this scene too. Anyway, Tina and Rod, uh, they take off upstairs to go hook up, while Glenn and Nancy are just like, Glenn makes a move on Nancy, but Nancy's like, no, we're here to support Tina. Like we shouldn't be fooling around, even though that's what Tina and Rod are upstairs doing. Uh, so they just go to separate rooms and just like awkwardly decide to listen to Tina and Rod like banging all night. Like I mean, like they could have went out if they weren't going to do it. They could, I mean, could have watched a movie, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess my thought was they wrote it bad that way on purpose because the sound of Tina and Rod having sex was supposed to eventually be the reason why no one goes upstairs to check on Tina while she's screaming from her nightmare because it would sound similar. But that doesn't really happen because as soon as uh, the nightmare happens and Tina starts getting killed and she starts screaming, they get to her room like uh almost like immediately. They're just locked out forever while she's being killed. Um, so that's pretty much the next scene as well. Is it just cuts to Tina and Rod are finished or whatever, and Rod like admits that he had a similar nightmare, that he had a nightmare as well. Um, so you find out that, which to me, honestly, if someone is telling me they had a dream the exact same as one I've had, like I would want to talk about that definitely. That's another common theme in this movie that I didn't like is that none of them went ahead and outright just
Suspicious.
admitted they were having the dream.
Yeah,
I just didn't understand.
yeah. I think
Nancy also takes a while to tell people about shit too. But what's up?
I was gonna say, I think that's just like a kind of 80s not great writing thing. Where it's just like we could have them figure out more by just talking to each other, but they're not going to. Like that doesn't make
Right.
sense in this situation to not talk at all.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Like if they had all discussed it and figured it out, it's one of those things where like the movie would be over way quicker because they use
Yeah.
common sense. So, I kind of skipped. Well, I didn't really skip over it as much. I just didn't really go into as much detail about Tina's kill. Great kill, by the way. That was a great scene. Very. Now I don't know what's different in the theatrical versus the uncut version. With this movie, I typically just always watch the uncut. I'm pretty sure, or no, I said that wrong. I pretty much always watch the theatrical because that is what ends up being streaming all the time. But
Yeah.
watching the uncut, I'm not really sure what the difference was on it. Um, I don't remember it being as bloody, so like maybe there is a bit more gore into it, but
Is
it's a
there
very bloody kill with her like being dragged up the wall upside down.
right?
The fact that we don't know what her nightmare is too just makes it creepy. We just know that she's defying gravity and crawling around on the walls and shit.
Yeah.
Very great scene too. So after this happens, Rod disappears because obviously he's going to be the one to get blamed for it. So whether he stayed or went, I mean, he was going to be arrested and
Right.
whatever. So uh, Tina, no, I'm getting ahead of myself again. This is why I write notes. Oh yeah. So after the kill, uh, Nancy is at the police station with her mom, and her dad, who is the police chief, we find out, uh, comes around the room to interrogate her about everything. And this is one of those scenes where it's not where the movie is starting to get boring yet because of Nancy, but it's a good example of like her delivery not being that great. And um it's like she wasn't able to make herself cry for real during the scene. It just comes off kind of weird like to watch. It was just strange delivery to me. That's just me though. I don't know. Other people may not feel that way. Like I said, I feel like she found her stride in Dream Warriors. I really liked her in that one. But pretty much during this interrogation scene, she tells her dad that no, her dad is asking her about the fight that they had earlier, which as we talked about was just like three really weird sentences. Like it didn't really look like a fight to me, but that's what people are going off of and saying they were upset with each other a lot the last time they saw each other. And she's just pretty much saying that Rod is innocent uh and that it's someone from their dreams that's killing them. And they just tell her she needs to get some rest because she's just kind of saying weird shit, being strange. So the next morning, after her friend was brutally murdered, she like just has to go to school or she'll go crazy, she said. I personally would be very depressed. I wouldn't be going to school, that's for damn sure. But she argues with her mom and she convinces her to let her go to school where uh Rod, once again, just like doing creepy shit. Rod was just, I get it. He's supposed to be like the bad boy or whatever, but the way they wrote him in this movie, as if he's just like, I don't know, he's just kind of just a piece of shit. Like he just does weird shit. Like Nancy's walking to school and he comes like from out of the bushes and like grabs her by the waist and covers her mouth and like pulls her into the bushes. Or it's just like, and I get it. He didn't want her to scream and like get them caught because he's hiding or whatever. But it was just like, bro, you just look like you're always doing something you shouldn't be fucking doing. Coming to find out that Nancy's dad was counting on Rod to try to talk to her on the way to school. So they come out and arrest him. I know well, first they try to arrest him. Her dad does, and she jumps in front of the gun so that Rod can escape. But like the place is surrounded because they knew he'd be in the area, and um, Rod gets arrested. And before I get ahead of myself again, let me just get back in these notes. Uh, the
Also, I'm
next
watching it
scene
right
is
now,
like,
and there's this shot of
mhm,
Rod and Tina in bed together, and he, makes a comment about, neither of us need to have nightmares anymore. She's like, "Oh, you've had
yeah,
nightmares?" Like, yeah, guys can have nightmares too. Like they were like this close to like,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, and I skipped over that earlier, but it's weird that they just left that alone. Like again, like you said, if they had figured it out though, then like the movie would be shorter. But um, the next scene after Rod gets arrested is one of the more iconic scenes in the movie. One of my favorite scenes in it, which is Nancy's classroom nightmare. She goes to
mhm.
school and she is in history class, I believe, and Lynn Shay, the lady from Insidious, the medium, she is the teacher, which it's always great to see Lynn Shay in something. But uh, I forget what exactly she's teaching about, if I'm being honest with you right now. But Nancy starts dozing off and she uh she wakes up in a nightmare and that sounds weird. But anyway, she finds herself in like a nightmare, still in her classroom, and she sees Tina in a body bag, like waving at her in the hallway. She gets up and follows her outside, and she doesn't see anything, but like just sort of a trail of blood. And Tina's at the end of the hallway. Um, the legs and the legs on the body bag go up in the air. It's just being pulled by something. You see the arm like flapped out of the bag. It looks really bloody and fleshy. It's a great creepy scene. And Nancy just kind of follows the body where she runs past like the janitors slash hall monitors slash Freddy Krueger in her dream, telling her not to run in the hallways or no, asking her where her hall pass is. And that's like one of my least favorite lines in the movie though was the whole screw your hall pass thing. I hate that line. Um, but anyway, Nancy finds herself in the boiler room. Also, she gets confronted by Freddy. He does like some creepy shit to try to freak her out more, and like he like cuts into himself, and you see like what's these bugs and shit crawling in him, and if this is the same scene I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure like you see like bugs and shit crawling out of Tina's mouth while she's in the body bag and whatnot. And uh anyway, she's kind of Freddy's closing in on her, so she burns herself on a pipe in the boiler room, wakes up in the classroom screaming, she gets sent home. No, her mom gets called, excuse me. Mom comes to pick her up and which I've also thought it was weird that she just kind of has this burn on her arm, untreated. It doesn't seem to really bother her at all. Um, and that maybe just be something they kind of overlooked. I believe she does have it wrapped up earlier at some point, or maybe it's a cut from something later that she uh that she receives later on in the movie. That I write down. Okay, so I think we get to the part now where she has Glenn come over to her house. And another one of those weird moments, she doesn't really explain to him like about this guy and her nightmares, about her suspicions about what's happening to Rod or anything like that. She kind of just um, very weirdly is like, "Hey, I need you to watch a guard over me while I sleep and just like wake me up if it looks like I'm having a bad dream. Like this is very important." She just doesn't really say anything. Um, and like there's some of the delivery, it looks like she's like flirting with him a little bit. It's just for how serious what she's trying to do is, she's like not really letting him know like the severity of the situation. Uh, which I found annoying that she takes so long to really like say anything to him about what's going on. But anyway, it's another nightmare sequence coming up where she falls asleep and she walks out of the front door of her house, um, where she turns around and calls out Glenn's name. Glenn pops out from behind a bush and is like, "Yeah, I'm still here, whatever," which lets you know that he's already asleep if he's answering her back in her nightmare. Uh, but they kind of just like glance over that whole little fact, which I thought was weird. Again, lots of just little plot armor so that they don't like figure shit out. Nancy's dream or Nancy's nightmare pretty much leads her uh to the jail to where she sees Rod and she sees Freddy in uh in Rod's cell, just like kind of tormenting them a little bit, letting Nancy know that he's next pretty much. And so um once she finally wakes up, gets mad at Glenn for falling asleep, they run down to the police station to tell them to check on Rod, and this cop takes way too fucking long to do anything about it. This kill, it was it's kind of boring. It's a good concept, but it just wasn't all that amazing to watch. But it's the kill where they make it, Freddy makes it look like Rod hung himself in his jail cell. Um, you would just kind of see the sheets like the wrapping around the around his neck and stuff and around the bars by themselves. Let me see, these notes are all over the place. It's also been a couple days now. Yeah, so after Freddie makes it look like Rod killed himself, there's a funeral for him and everything, and it's kind of a weird funeral. The you could tell the preacher took a couple jabs at Rod, like quoting scriptures like um if you like he who lives by the sword dies by the sword and things like that, and like Loki kind of saying like he kind of had it coming because he killed Tina in a sense, which is like kind of a fucked up thing to say at a funeral. Um, just like don't even do the funeral if that's how you want to feel about it. Um, After the funeral, Nancy starts to describe Freddie to her mom and dad, and they clearly like know something, um, because just the looks they're giving each other about it. Really, the mom's face really gives it away. Um, the dad tells the mom to take Nancy home to get her some rest because like the stress of everything is like causing her to hallucinate or whatever. And then the mom says, no, like I want to go and get her help. And they take her to a sleep studies like facility where they hook her up to a machine and they run all these tests on her while she's asleep. She ends up having a nightmare during the testing, uh, and like shorting out the equipment and everything. And then once they wake her up, she pretty much just explains that she's been attacked by Freddy again, and she has like she discovers that she's pulled his hat out from the dream world, and it freaks her mom out. So they after this is where the movie gets kind of like I kind of start to feel like the runtime a little bit. Like I kind of want it to I want them to start wrapping things up around this point because now this is where the rest of the movie is pretty much Nancy confronting her mom with this sort of confident, this like sort of oddly like newly gained confidence. You never can tell if she's like sad or trying to cry. And but then like there's moments where she like snaps into like being really like Jesus Christ, like being like a hard ass with her mom and shit and like putting her hands against the wall and like kind of getting in her face and rubbing Freddie's hat in her face and telling her to like confront it, and she like calls her out on just drinking and avoiding everything. Um, at that point, the mom slaps her. She uh, Nancy also like throws like a bottle of vodka or some shit like at her mom's feet and shatter it. There's like a huge fight. She runs out of the house again. She meets up with Glenn and they try to do the same plan they tried the last time when he fell asleep. And I believe he falls asleep again this time too when they go into the dream world. Um, I'll skip the scene, and that's why my brain is like going backwards. Rod doesn't die in that first dream. I'm gonna back up just a little bit. uh the first time Glenn falls asleep and he's supposed to be keeping watch, Rod doesn't die that time. That's when Freddy just kind of is like hinting at that Rod is next to Nancy. Then Nancy and Glenn go to the station. The guy takes forever to check on to let them go back there to talk to Rod. Rod and Nancy have a conversation where Nancy, and again, this is where like the delivery is like, I need to figure out like what fucking mood you're in because she's knowing that something else is attacking them, and it's almost like she's trying to get him to say it, but then she's also like very like she's like very like aggressive and like accusing him of like being like, well, there was no one else there. Like it had to have been you. Like that doesn't even make sense. Like almost like she doesn't know what's going on her. So it was just kind of weird. But um, Rod admits that he describes what he was wearing and the gloves and the knives and everything, and then Nancy doesn't even tell him that she knows. She just kind of backs away. And then uh after that is where, so let me see, I had to go back because I skipped over that dream. Hey, that's when we get the bathtub sequences after that, and then Rod dies, and then the funeral, and now we're back caught up. Nancy goes over to Rod's one more, or no, Nancy goes to Rod's one more time, and this is where, no, Nancy goes, God damn it. Nancy goes to Glenn's one more time to attempt the whole watch me sleep thing, and this is where he wakes her up just barely in time, and they go to the police station, and that's where they're too late, and they go in there, and it looks like Rod's committed suicide. And then the funeral, dream sequence, or dream research center. Then after the research center, it's just like awkward confrontation between Nancy and her mom, like I was saying before. And then uh, Nancy goes out, picks up this book on booby traps and survival, has a talk with Glenn where he tells her, like, people believe that if you come across like monsters and nightmares, that you just have to not give it energy and it'll just like go away or whatever. They meet up later so that no, they plan to meet up later and try the dream thing again. They have a whole plan where they're going to bring Freddy out of the dream world into our world so that he can be arrested or killed or whatever, however they're planning to deal with it. But when she gets back home, she sees that her mom has put bars on all of the windows and just sat on the couch and got drunk and uh before Nancy can like really start yelling at her about the bars on the windows. This is where the mom takes her down to like the basement and she pulls out Freddy's gloves and claws and admits that she knows what's going on and how Freddy was this child killer from the neighborhood that they burned alive in the building and like that's why he's after like her and her friends because of the things that their parents did. Um, so yeah, she decides the best thing to do is just to lock them in the house and just wait it out and see what happens. Uh, God damn it, sorry. And this is where we get to. Oh yeah, so this time Nancy goes. No, Nancy doesn't go to sleep yet because she's kind of waiting to see. She's waiting for Glenn to call her because there's a specific time that they're planning on doing this at. But Glenn, of course, he falls asleep, and this is one of the more famous scenes in the movie. It didn't make a lot of sense, but it was a really good gore scene, and this is the scene where Glenn falls asleep. He is pulled down into the mattress along with several items in his room, and then you just see like the blood tornado like spiral up out of the mattress and just all over the room and everything. So
That's definitely the most
they
famous, not just for that effect, but also for the
mhm,
fact that Johnny Depp in like an early role.
mhm.
But yeah, they did that. They flipped everything upside down. They just
Yeah,
made it upside
yeah,
down set and poured it out.
yeah, that's a real famous one. Um this one, it left a lot to the imagination. Like I always wonder like what the fuck would the nightmare have been like to have caused that, but I mean I guess it's not really that important. And then let me see. Let me pick this back up. So Glenn's death starts to escalate the movie because uh Nancy's dad and Glenn lives across the street. Kind of important to mention, but I hadn't before. Glenn lives pretty much across the street from Nancy. So she's watching her dad in the ambulance go inside of his house, and he she calls over and tells her dad like, "Hey, this is what I was going like the plan she was going to do with Glenn." She's just like, again, not really explaining much and just being kind of weird. I wouldn't really believe her either. Um, this fucking dog. I wouldn't really take her that serious either. She just sounds crazy. She's like, I'm gonna go and get the guy that did this, and I need you to be here to wake me up at 12:20. I don't know. It was just kind of weird. Again, like this is actual help that you're talking to, and you're not really making it sound like you need him to be there for. It was just, but I think it was just her. I think it was just her delivery.
Yeah.
And then this also starts the part where, so I don't even think I wrote down the rest of that. So pretty much from here on out, Nancy is in the nightmare. She's just kind of being chased by Freddy. A lot more of the boiler room shit. But then I think she's hit a timer or something this time to wake her up. So she grabs him, pulls him into pulls him back into the real world, and they do a lot of just um like just rolling around where they're struggling and fighting, and then he's on top, and she rolls over, and she's on, and it's just like a lot of that over and over again, and getting chased around the house. At some point, she goes over, she's yelling through the bars in her windows at like one of the deputies to go and get help, and he's just kind of like, "No, it's okay, everything's fine," and she's just like, obviously, he's clearly not hearing what the fuck she's saying. Um, so he takes forever. So Freddy gets back up and attacks her, and he's just running around the house getting hit with all these weird like booby traps and shit that she set up, uh, all in one day from this book that she went out and bought earlier. And the deputy finally is like, maybe I should get someone. Calls, or he goes over, gets her dad. He comes in. By the time, by the time her dad gets over to the house and like knocks the front door in and goes upstairs. They open the door and he's well Nancy, yeah, because Nancy meets him about halfway. They go upstairs and they open the door to Nancy's room, and Freddie is on fire on top of Nancy's mom, and like they just disappear uh through the mattress after Nancy's dad like puts a blanket over the top of them to try to extinguish the fire. They just disappear into the mattress, and that appears to be the end of it. And the dad kind of like there's a small conversation between the dad and Nancy about how um, she clearly wasn't crazy, and like he just saw that, so he leaves. Um, but Nancy just kind of like turns her back to like the corner of the room, and is like she just says like I think she says I know you're there or I know you're not going or something like that, and then Freddy appears and it's one of those like kind of like Stephen King endings of like It or something like that. The old one and the new ones, like just the way they end is just like, just don't believe in it, don't be afraid of it. She just says like, you're nothing, this isn't real, and he goes to take his last shatter, and he just like fades and disappears. And Nancy wakes up. This is the ending was just like kind of confusing because I think they knew they wanted Freddy to be back, but I don't think they knew exactly how to just end the movie because there's a fake out of oh maybe she didn't bring him into the real world from the dream world, then he pops up, and then there's the fake out of the disappearing into the mattress with her mom. Um, but then once the dad leaves, he's still there in the real world, and then she just simply doesn't believe in him, and he disappears, and then she wakes up the next morning, her and her mom together, like her mom's walking her to the front door to meet Glenn and Tina and Rod for school, I believe. I think I want to say it was all four of them again reunited. Um, they're picking her up to go to school, and as they drive off, the roof of the car closes, and it's the pattern of Freddy's sweater, and like the car like locks itself and just takes off with the kids inside of it screaming, and uh Nancy's mom is just kind of smiling and waving at her, not really seeing what's going on. And then her mom is snatched into like the almost like not the peeping hole, but just like I guess like the window of the front door. And then the movie ends. And I had no idea what the fuck that meant.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they wanted to be able to leave it open for sequels. I think they knew right away.
Yeah,
Also, I have it on in the background right now. There are a couple things that uh just in the moment I thought of that I want to comment on. The bathtub scene, like the tank that they
yeah.
put that in, like the water, the under, like whatever she's like pulled down into.
Hmm.
That's one of the creepier parts of this movie. I feel like just like that
Yeah,
shot being pulled down in the water, just like down, and there's like just like a little hole of light going back up to the bathtub. Also,
yeah,
her
yeah,
when her and Johnny Depp are in the room or in her room together when he climbs through the window. I think it's funny that she like looks at herself in the
yeah,
mirror like, oh God, I look 20 years old.
yeah.
Like
That's
fucking old.
just those like stupid lines like that too. And then also just how normal it was for him to just pop up.
Yeah.
That was a thing too in a lot of those old movies too. I feel like there's a scene I wanted to talk about that I kind of rushed past. I don't remember what it was exactly. Oh, when they go to the the sleeping like disorder research facility, um, they tell her that she needs to go to sleep so they can study her patterns or whatever the fuck. And like the first thing she says is, if the problems are happening in my nightmares, then why don't y'all just give me a pill to where I don't dream? Um, and it was funny that they threw that in there because I guess I never really paid attention to that line before, but that makes a return in Dream Warriors and also Freddy versus Jason. So I just like that the later movies refer back to the Hypnosil drug.
Yeah, you know who does that?
But
Smoking weed. Be fucking smoking weed and drinking alcohol and prevent your REM sleep dreams.
that is a good point too. But yeah, I am. like I said, the ending of it wasn't like really a great ending. The movie is fun, which is why I threw it on the Halloween must watch list. It is like, even though it's rated R, or this version was uncut, it's still very much like PG-13, like house party vibes. Like
Yeah.
there's people here that like Halloween that may not really like crazy fucked up horror, but like it's got a couple of scenes in there for everybody. It's also one that you can just kind of talk over and just wait for the kills to happen to. Which is why I threw it in there. It's a good movie to throw on every now and then, but uh I just think I hold three in such high regards that I do think a little bit lower in this movie as I get older, just because three did so much for it. But we don't get three without one, though. Like we don't get a lot without one. It's still a very important movie. Um, I would just put it uh second to Dream Warriors still. It's a lot more characters in Dream Warriors too, a lot more going on, a lot more storylines going on in that one as well. Um, Nancy returning, of course, great, but yeah, we don't have to get into that whole other movie right now, but that's pretty much it. That is A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984.
What would you feel like it would take for there to be a good remake in this day and age? Because I know there was one
Um,
15 years ago. But
I
like,
would say I don't think there's a way anymore to do it. I think it's just been attempted too many times that even if they did get it right, uh, I don't think people would necessarily flock out to see it. But I think got hot out there. I was in there because it was raining out here, but it stopped. But um, I think Robert England I saw like some years ago in an interview was saying that he's he doesn't feel that he has like the physicality anymore to do another Freddy, but he would like to be he would like for there to be a reboot of Dream Warriors actually, and he would play it would be a gender swap to one of the doctors at the hospital that doesn't believe the kids. And that would be a great concept, having the old Freddy Krueger be the doctor that doesn't believe in Freddy Krueger. Um, I just don't know. I wouldn't say it couldn't be done. I just don't think we would really care anymore. Like it would have to be really, really fucking good. Um, like the 2010, I think it was. That wasn't a bad movie. The Freddy was, I mean, it looked like the naked mole rat from Kim Possible. Like it just didn't look like Freddy. Didn't really sound too much like the old Freddy, but that's one of those things. Like Robert Englund just did such a good fucking job that it would be it would be difficult for anybody to remake it properly or properly portray Freddy. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't really
Despite all the
know.
makeup, he has a very like specific, distinctive face that you can see on
Yeah. Yeah,
England.
you can kind of see through the makeup still. You can see his face. But yeah, I think the 2010 one was a good idea. Like that's I guess I would throw it in there as like a guilty pleasure. I don't mind watching that one from time to time, especially like during Halloween season, but uh yeah, it was okay. It felt like the 2000s. It was cool. I mean, I liked it. I don't think the storyline was necessarily just like terrible, but I think the Freddy man, it's just hard to get someone else to do Freddy. You got to just do it right.
Yeah, I think the best way if they were to do a reboot, definitely not make it modern day and just do a 2026 version of the of the 80s where it's like you have all of the nostalgia shit that people are big on, you know,
Yeah,
just honestly,
they
I
would
would
just have to
prefer
think
for
of
there to be
different
more practical
kills.
effects.
Yeah, like they couldn't go in and just redo. I mean, honestly, the classroom scene would just they would have to not do a classroom scene, and they would have to, or if they do it, they'd have to make the dream like something really fucking creepy. Maybe I don't know. They'd have to get creative with what the dream is because uh this just isn't the only franchise that has done that. Other franchises that aren't even supernatural have done the whole teenager like falling asleep in class and waking up screaming and freaking out. Like it's been done a lot. I can't think of too many examples right now, unfortunately, of course, but that trope has been done so much that um I wouldn't want to see another classroom scene. I mean, unless it would just have to be really good. It would have to be really scary. Like there would have to be maybe some actual jump scares in it too. Something fucked up. I don't know. But and then also the the Johnny Depp, his death in the bed. I don't know if I would like that to be recreated either. They would I think I would prefer them do a different take on how the quote unquote love interest would go.
Yeah, I think they'd have to make changes like that for all of them.
Yeah,
So the same general characters, but unique versions of the kills.
right. I feel like Dream Warriors could if Dream Warriors were to be rebooted, it could be almost the exact same movie. I don't think they would need to change too much. I mean, the dreams would be different, obviously, because technology is different. They could do a lot more, but I don't think they would have to change much. I would just like that movie with updated graphics. I'd watch it
Yeah.
because it does have that corny like uh fight with like the really bad CGI skeleton. It looks kind of like Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2, kind of goofy looking. But even then, it's still fun. But I think that one could be rebooted. I'd watch the fuck out of that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm thinking of like this as a HBO show, like a prequel run,
Mhm.
essentially. Like that could
Yeah,
be a good way to update it.
yeah. I think that's the direction they're taking with Friday the 13th now. I think they're doing A24 and Peacock, I believe, are doing like a prequel series, a little bit more insight on Miss Voorhees and all that. So that'll be dope whenever that eventually comes out. Uh, how long is Max going to be down there?
Until we both leave Monday.
Monday?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Damn, I was gonna say we should try to record something, the three of us, while
I-
y'all are together.
yeah.
That would be sick too. I just gotta check my schedule. But
Cool.
um I'm going to get on back in here and start getting some responsibilities and shit taken care of and start getting ready for bed. Uh but I
Got
will be in touch about some ideas for what the next movie will be. I got a couple ideas, but um
it.
I'll text you in a little bit.
Sounds good.
All right, catch you later.
All right. See you.